Calm, focus, happiness. Reach new heights of calm, focus, and happiness here on Mindfulness Mode with me, your host and mindfulness life coach, Bruce Langford. I'm here with a scientist today, Mindful Tribe, and I am very much looking forward to this interview because it's just right up our alley when we talk about mindfulness and we talk about movement and health and brain health, and we're going to be talking about aging and what we can do to move the body and heal the mind, because my guest today is the author of a book called Move the Body, Heal the Mind. And so I am so excited to tell you that I have Dr. Jennifer Heisz on the line today. Well, as we move forward in the interview, I want to ask you 5 quick answer questions. So just 30-second answers are perfect. The first one is this: who is one person who has been a positive influence for you in your life when the topic of mindfulness comes up?
Oh, one person who's been a positive influence.
And
I
it could
would
be an author
say,
or a mentor or somebody like that.
yeah, probably Eckhart Tolle. I
Yeah.
read a lot of his work. I listened to his audiobook while I was cycling.
Oh, yeah.
Just that consistent message, the power of now, being in the present moment. That was a really helpful message to me at the time when I had discovered him.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about emotions. How has the practice of mindfulness helped you and your emotions?
Hmm. Yeah, I would say that mindfulness helps me be less reactive to my emotions. So, sure, stressors still exist in my life, but I'm less reactive to them, and they're options rather than truths. And so it allows me to take a step back and um, decide how I want to react or not react.
Tell us how breathing is part of your mindfulness
Hmm.
practice.
Yeah, I talk about attention to breath in the book and throughout the book because this is a really helpful way to incorporate mindfulness into movement. So, research shows that when we pay attention to the breath, it really helps to soothe a brain region called the amygdala, which is our fear and threat detection center in the brain. And so, paying attention to our breath, our prefrontal cortex, which is the logic part of our brain, can help soothe that anxious amygdala so that we don't feel as afraid or anxious.
Right. Your book, Move the Body, Heal the Mind, highly recommended, highly recommended. Are there any other books that you would encourage our listeners to check out?
Hmm. Other books about movement and exercise or
Or about mindfulness? Yeah,
about
anything like that.
mindfulness? To be honest, I've been mostly focusing on my own book for the past while. Let me think if there's anything I've been reading lately. I can't remember the title, but there was this one book that I really liked the idea of recently. Was on doing a life recall, or like an end of life recall. So there's this idea that at the very end of our life, we have this flashback of our whole life through our eyes, but that we don't have to wait to the end of the life to do that. We can do that intermittently throughout our life to reflect on where we've been and where we want to go. And so I can't remember the name of that book, but I can send you the link
Oh,
once
that'd be
I.
great if you send it. I'll put it in our show notes at
Okay.
mindfulnessmode.com. So
Okay.
that would be great. And one last question: are there any apps that you use that can help with mindfulness, or can help us to get moving? Anything like that?
Sure. There's one that I like, which it used to be called Breathe. I'm not sure what it's called anymore, but it was called Breathe. And this is just it's like simple mindfulness meditations. Another one is the Choose Muse, the Muse app. And so this is a really fun one I just started using, where it has this biofeedback, where you put the brain sensor on, and it gives you bird chirping when you're quiet and still. Do you know this one?
I do, yeah.
And Yeah, I think that's kind of fun. So yeah, when it comes to mindfulness, though, I tend to not use technology. I find technology is sort of the the antithesis
I do
of
too. I
mindfulness to
do too.
me. So
I do too.
I'm not super technological savvy with that, but those two I find have been helpful.
Very interesting. Well, those are the 5 questions, but that does take us to the other thing I wanted to ask you, and that is about meditation. So you mentioned choose muse. Have you been meditating for quite a while? Tell us about meditation in your life.
Yeah, so I think, my book is on exercise, but exercise, in my opinion, is just one tool in the whole toolkit you can use to help support your mental health. And meditation is also another one, a very important one that I do. I do every morning. I do a little bit of meditation, whether it's depending on the time I have, 5 minutes or 30 minutes, and just reconnecting with, the center, reconnecting with a peace and calmness within me. And that helps to reframe and refocus my mind for the day. So, mindfulness has been such an important part of my life for a long time. And I think it's extremely, it's like a direct brain training, right? It trains the brain, trains the thought patterns so that you can have control over those thoughts. And when we move our bodies in challenging ways, we do enter into the present moment more readily. And then that actually, there's a direct correlation we show in our research between people who are more active and people who are more mindful. So they really do go hand in hand.
Well, that's fascinating. As we wrap up the interview, do you have any final words of advice for anyone listening to the program today?
Well, I think, if you haven't been moving much lately, that's okay. Um, some is better than none, even just a simple walk around the park. It doesn't have to be about intensity. It can just be about duration. And if you want to start with that, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're really into mindfulness, you can make that part of your mindfulness meditation, like a walking meditation. And every bit of movement counts. And so I think if it can be incorporated that way, in a way that's really really seamlessly integrates with your life, then you're more likely to do it. And when it comes to movement, consistency is key.
Dr. Weiss, thank you very much for being on Mindfulness Mode today.
Thank you.
Yeah, great to have you here.